How Japanese minimalists wake up early and stay energized all day. Have you ever wondered why Japanese living spaces feel so peaceful, so quiet, yet so complete? There's a stillness that isn't empty, a simplicity that somehow holds everything that truly matters. In a culture where silence is a language, and empty space is as sacred as what fills it, Japanese minimalism isn't just a way of living, it's a way of being. We live in a time that constantly urges us to want more, do more, own more. But the irony is, the more we accumulate, the more disconnected we often feel. We chase productivity, collect things, fill every inch of our space, yet deep down, something still feels missing. Presence, clarity, a pace slow enough to actually touch our own lives. So the question is there another way? A quieter, more intentional rhythm? The answer might lie in Japanese minimalism, and not in the way you might expect. Because while many Western interpretations of minimalism stop at the surface clean countertops, white rooms, empty shelves, the Japanese approach goes much deeper. Minimalism, to them, isn't just about aesthetics. It's about mindful arrangement. It's about creating a space and a life where every object, every moment, and every decision carries meaning. A tidy room is just the beginning. Beneath it lies a philosophy cultivated over centuries, rooted in stillness, balance, and presence. What makes this lifestyle special isn't what you see. It's the quiet, powerful principles that guide it, unspoken rules that shape how Japanese people live, think, and feel. And while these principles might be invisible at first glance, they carry deep wisdom for anyone willing to look closer at the small details of everyday life. And in today's video, we're not just talking about an ideal morning, we're walking through a healing journey. A path where every tiny habit, from how you wake up, breathe, tidy, to how you sip your tea, becomes a quiet ritual. A ritual that helps you not only wake up early, but stay grounded, energized, and awake to life all day long. Let's begin. 1. Waking up on time. Have you ever noticed that on the days you wake up on time, not late, not rushed, not tapping 5 more minutes, your body suddenly feels weightless, as if it already knows everything will be okay? That feeling isn't random. It's a sign that you and time are moving in the same rhythm. Japanese minimalists hold a quiet faith in the steadiness of the body's clock. To them, it isn't just physiology, it's an invisible ritual that ties the body to nature and the mind to wakefulness. When the sun rises, they rise. No hurry, no struggle. Simply a gentle return to the new day, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. There's a clear biological principle beneath this habit, a 24-hour rhythm, guided by a small region in the brain. But what makes it sacred in the Japanese spirit isn't the science. It's the way each on-time awakening becomes a kept promise to oneself, a quiet honoring of the original cadence of body and mind, so often shaken by social schedules, glowing screens, and that second life after midnight. The Japanese don't wake early to do more. They wake early to live deeper. In that moment before the sun turns bright, when the air still carries dew and the world holds its breath, they touch what feels like complete emptiness. Not emptiness as in lack, but emptiness that isn't mindlessly filled. Within that spaciousness, the spirit clears like a well newly freed of algae. Not everyone can wake at 5, but choosing a fixed hour and keeping it even on weekends is a meditative act. Imagine a gardener watering at the same time each day, not because a few minutes late would kill the plant, but because such steady care builds a quiet bond between the gardener and the garden, between a person and the person they hope to be. Natural light is the first invisible medicine of the morning. Open the curtains, step onto the balcony, or simply let light touch your eyes in the first 10 minutes. That alone is enough for the body to understand. It's daytime. Wake. In the minimalist view, this needs no complicated technique. It asks only that you stand still for a moment and let the light do its work. Over time, you'll notice this. When your body wakes at the right time, your mind also learns where to rest. You don't need coffee to sprint. You don't need your phone to dodge boredom. You only need consistency, that gentle discipline the Japanese speak of, to turn each morning from a wrestling match into a meeting with yourself. And perhaps that is the most important thing a morning can offer. 2. Starting the day in silence. Something quietly profound happens on the mornings you begin in silence. No buzzing phone, no urgent to-do list, No blinking messages waiting to be read, just stillness. A gentle pause that protects your mind from being swept away too quickly. A soft space where you're not pulled into roles, expectations, or noise before you've even had a chance to meet yourself. For Japanese minimalists, this silence is more than a habit. It's an unspoken ritual, a buffer zone for the heart, a moment of emotional alignment. They don't see silence as empty, but as whole. It's not a moment of doing nothing. It's a moment of simply being, just as you are, in the quiet mist of morning awareness. Sitting quietly for 5 or 10 minutes after waking doesn't require deep meditation techniques or any expertise. All it asks for is presence. You might sit up in bed, close your eyes, and breathe slowly. Feel the cool air against your skin. Hear the faint hum of the ceiling fan or a bird's call outside the window. Do nothing else. Don't scroll, don't respond. Don't rush to become someone again. This morning's silence is like wiping clean a mirror. Before the world projects 1,000 images onto it, you gently clear it so you can see your own reflection. In that stillness, thoughts and feelings you didn't know were there begin to rise softly, without urgency. And when you stop reacting and simply watch, you begin to understand. And when you understand, the chaos loses its grip. This simple act of silence, so subtle it's almost invisible, helps you begin the day not in defense, but in awareness. You're not bracing for the world, you're choosing how to meet it. You're not pushing away your emotions, you're listening. And in that space, you're not just surviving the day, you're inhabiting it fully. Some people say, I can't sit still. Silence just isn't for me. But maybe it's not that silence doesn't suit you, maybe it's that no one ever taught you how to stay with yourself. The discomfort you feel isn't failure. It's just the feeling of returning to a part of yourself that's been neglected. And in that return, something begins to heal. Morning silence is the space where your inner world breathes. That's why, in Japanese culture, silence is not a void. It's the ground from which clarity and calm can grow. You don't have to perform. You don't have to hide. All you have to do is show up for yourself. And just like decluttering a room of things that no longer serve, this small silence clears the mental noise. You're not suppressing your emotions, you're simply choosing not to carry what you don't need today. This kind of simplicity doesn't just bring clarity, it makes you stronger in the quietest way possible. Because sometimes, what drains us the most isn't what we do, it's how we begin. 3. Moving meditation, asagaiko. In Japanese culture, the morning doesn't begin with rushing to beat the clock. It begins with presence through movement. Asagaiko, or morning practice, is not just a form of exercise. It is a ritual where each motion is performed with quiet intention, as if every gesture were a greeting to life itself. What makes asagaiko unique is not its intensity or complexity, but its pace. The deliberate slowness, the rhythm of breath flowing with the body's movement, the awareness of each joint, each muscle, each line of energy awakening after rest, this is what matters. The Japanese believe the body is the first temple we must tend to each day, not to conquer anything, but to reconnect with ourselves. Often done before 7 a.m., asagaiko happens when the air is still light and the mind is yet untouched by worry. It's a time when every stretch, every step, every roll of the shoulder becomes a meditation if done with attention. You don't need a gym. You don't need fancy equipment. All you need is a willingness to show up from within. Some people begin with a few minutes of gentle stretching to the soft rhythms of Rajyo Taiso Japan's morning radio calisthenics. Others move slowly through a quiet sequence of yoga or tai chi. Some simply walk through the garden, listening to the breath match the rhythm of their steps. No matter the form, the spirit remains the same. Do less, but do it fully. And in that simplicity, asagaiko opens a state of balance that few other routines can bring. It activates the nervous system without overwhelming it. It clears the head without forcing effort. It allows energy to flow, not by pushing, but by releasing. You feel alive, not because you've exerted force, but because you've allowed your body to participate in the morning as an equal partner. Those who keep this habit often say their bodies grow more patient, their minds less reactive, and their emotions more stable. Maybe it's because each gentle movement teaches them to observe rather than to react, to listen before acting, to soften instead of resist. Not every movement needs to be powerful. A single mindful gesture can shift your entire inner current. Morning practice, in the Japanese way, is not about building muscle, it's about building awareness. It doesn't ask for speed. It asks you to slow down, to feel, to devote your full attention to what your body is saying. And when you finally do, you realize your body doesn't just want to move, it wants to be understood. External motion is the doorway to inner stillness. That truth doesn't belong only to martial artists or monks. It belongs to anyone who wants to begin their day not in fatigue, but in the quiet strength of being fully ready. 4. Purifying the space. After awakening both body and mind with light, with silence, with gentle, mindful movement, what Japanese minimalists often do next seems simple, almost invisible, but it carries a quiet power that shapes the entire rhythm of their day. They purify their living space. Just a few minutes, not long, but these moments hold symbolic weight. They make the bed, wipe the table, return a few stray items to their rightful place. Not because their home is messy, but because the mind craves stillness, a visual anchor, a quiet affirmation that things are in order. Cleaning the space becomes a way to touch reality, and in that contact, they return to the present. There's a Zen concept in Japan called oji, which means cleaning as meditation. You don't need to sit in lotus position or count your breaths. You only need a damp cloth, a folded blanket, the act of returning a book to its shelf, and suddenly, the mind begins to settle. In Japanese minimalist living, the outer world is never separate from the inner one. The space outside is a reflection of the silence within. And if you want to see yourself clearly, look at the room you're living in. Making the bed in the morning might seem ordinary, but the way they smooth the sheets, adjust the pillows, there's a kind of reverence to it. It's not a chore, it's a statement. I'm entering this day with intention. When the bed is tidy, it feels like chaos has been quietly folded away. Then comes the slow walk through the room. A wiped surface, a drawer closed with care, a cup returned to its corner. These small gestures are like whispered reminders. Things are still within reach. You can begin again from simplicity. Modern science tells us that a tidy space reduces stress, improves focus, and elevates mood. But the Japanese don't need a study to feel that. They experience it every morning, through the scent of a single drop of oil on a cleaning cloth, through the tiny satisfaction of seeing everything return to its rightful place. It's not about control, it's about alignment. In the philosophy of Danshari letting go, choosing wisely, and honoring simplicity, purifying the space each morning is more than routine. It's a cleansing ritual, a way to part from yesterday's energy and welcome the new day with clarity and calm. If something no longer serves the heart, it must go. That principle helps them stop at the right moment, keep what matters, and renew themselves one breath, one choice at a time. When the space is clear, the heaviness lifts. You breathe easier, you focus better, and you step into the day with a lighter, quieter strength. Just 5 or 10 minutes, just a bit of presence. The space becomes an anchor, and the morning flows in like fresh water, cool, weightless, and clean. 5. Getting ready for the new day? There's a familiar paradox. Morning is when we need clarity and calm the most, yet it's when we're most likely to feel scattered. The truth is, that chaos doesn't start in the morning, it often begins the night before. Japanese minimalists understand this deeply. They don't wait for morning to create order. They prepare the night before through small, quiet actions that carry a much bigger intention. Tomorrow begins tonight. They don't treat preparation as a chore, but as a quiet way of softening the future. Each evening gesture, laying out clothes, tidying the desk, placing a pair of socks by the bed, is like a gentle message to their morning self. I've thought of you. You don't need to rush. The Japanese philosophy of shikaraganai, accepting what cannot be changed, is not about resignation, but about wisdom. You can't change when the sun rises or how many emails will demand your attention tomorrow, but you can change how you feel when you meet the day. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is by removing unnecessary choices before they overwhelm you. Getting ready for the next day isn't about control. It's about clearing the mind of trivial decisions, so your energy is saved for what truly matters. When you already know what you'll wear, what you'll eat, what you need to bring your morning stops being a series of reactions, it becomes a steady, intentional flow, a kind of quiet readiness. In Japanese minimalist living, preparing for tomorrow always comes with a sense of respect for the present. It's not about escaping today through overplanning, and it's not about obsessing over what's ahead. It's about putting things where they belong, calmly, clearly, just enough to let you fall asleep with the sense that everything is in its place. Once you begin practicing this, you'll notice that evenings no longer slip away unconsciously. They become a transition, a gentle bridge from motion to stillness, from pressure to ease. And in that space, you're not just preparing for the next morning. You're healing the version of yourself that once woke up exhausted and overwhelmed. There's a saying in Japan, a quiet morning is born from an intentional night. And if you've ever grown tired of rushing through your mornings, maybe what you need isn't a better alarm clock. Maybe was 6. Boosting energy with matcha and minimalist breakfast. After waking the body and tending to the space around you, after the mind has been stilled by silence and movement, energy must be nurtured not with sudden stimulation, but with quiet, steady care. That's why Japanese minimalists begin their morning not with haste, but with a gentle ritual, sipping matcha and enjoying a minimalist breakfast. Matcha isn't just something to drink for alertness. It's an experience of connection. It's not rushed into a mug and swallowed thoughtlessly. It's whisked slowly with intention, using a bamboo chasen, with full attention on the deep green color, the rising froth, the delicate scent that softens the morning air. In that moment, you're not just making tea, you're slowing down with time itself. What makes matcha unique is its steady, graceful energy. Unlike coffee, which spikes and crashes, matcha awakens you with balance. Its natural pairing of caffeine and L-theanine creates a state of calm focus. This is energy that doesn't jolt or scatter. It holds you, lifts you, keeps you present. The Japanese breakfast follows the same spirit: simple, intentional, never excessive. A bowl of rice, a light miso soup, a few slices of grilled fish or tofu, a small serving of pickled vegetables. Everything is clean, portioned with care, just enough to nourish without burdening. In the wabi-sabi spirit, eating isn't about fullness, it's about awareness. Eating in silence, on neutral-toned plates, in a space you've already purified it all, creates a subtle state of being, one where you're not consumed by your food, but quietly present with it. There's no distraction, no scrolling, no talking. Just you, the food, and a gentle sense of gratitude. This simplicity isn't deprivation, it's clarity. It's knowing what your body truly needs. Not more, but right. Not indulgence, but nourishment. The Japanese understand deeply. What you feed yourself first each day becomes the foundation of your energy, your emotions, your attention. How you nourish your body is how you treat yourself. Beginning the day with matcha and a minimalist breakfast isn't just a dietary choice. It's an act of reverence for the body, for the moment, and for the life moving quietly through you. 7. Maintaining daily rhythm with micro breaks and single tasking. Sustaining energy and clarity isn't just about willpower. It's about knowing when to pause, when to continue, and when to simply do one thing at a time. Japanese minimalists understand this well in the way they work, the way they rest, and the way they define endurance not as constant motion, but as the art of recovering without collapsing. In a world that moves too fast, the idea of micro breaks, tiny pauses of just 1 or 2 minutes might seem insignificant. But it's these little moments of stillness that keep the day from unraveling. 1 minute to close your eyes, 1 minute to look at the trees in the distance, 1 minute to sip tea without distraction. These are the quiet resurrections of the day. You don't have to leave your desk, just step away from the noise inside your mind. In Japanese tradition, there's a word for this state of relaxed awareness: zanshin. It's the kind of alertness that's soft but steady, awake but not anxious. And to maintain this state, Japanese minimalists do something many of us forget: they choose to single task. No multitasking, no jumping between tabs or conversations. Because every time we shift attention, we leak energy. And by the end of the day, it's those tiny leaks that leave us drained without knowing why. Doing one thing at a time might feel slow, but it's a kind of purposeful slowness. It allows us to go deep rather than skim the surface. It turns tasks into process, into presence. You begin, You continue, you complete, fully. And when this becomes your rhythm, you notice something. The quality of your work improves, and yet the pressure eases. Because you're no longer stretched thin, you're rooted in one clear direction. The Japanese concept of ganbat, to do your best, doesn't mean to burn yourself out. It means to be fully present, honest with what's in front of you, and to move through your day without needing to prove anything. The more focused you are, the less you're drained. That simple truth is one they've embodied both at work and in everyday life. You don't need to do it all in one day. You just need rhythm, breath, focus, pause. A day with gentle structure feels less chaotic. You not only get things done, you stay clear inside. Because often, what exhausts us isn't what we have to do. It's how we do it rushed, distracted, constantly tense, forgetting that even a bow must loosen before it can send the arrow flying. 8. Applying inner space. When the day has already passed its midpoint, when the rhythm around you begins to speed up, and even your effort to stay centered starts to wear thin, Japanese minimalists don't reach for another cup of coffee or force themselves through one more push. Instead, they return to something quiet, something deeper, a sense of inner space, a soft kind of strength that feels like an empty room inside your heart where you can step in and breathe again. Inner space isn't an abstract concept. It's a lived experience. It's what happens when something stirs you, and instead of reacting, you pause. You breathe first. You observe it without fusing with it. You notice the emotion rising, and rather than getting swept away, you name it gently. This is worry. This is irritation. And somehow, just by naming it, it begins to soften. It moves on like a wave that never finds shore. The Japanese don't teach you to be tough. They teach you to be soft on the inside. Because when your inner world is wide enough, the outer world brushes up against you with less impact. When you're no longer ruled by reflexes, you begin to move from choice. And that kind of choice is its own freedom, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom not to be dragged by what you don't need. Stillness is the root of movement. Letting go is the root of endurance. This is how they move through a long day without losing the lightness of morning. Inner space is cultivated gradually in the moments you pause before responding to an email, in the deep breath you take before an important call, in the times you hear a thought in your head and realize you don't have to believe everything it says. It's like cleaning the inside of a room the same way you tidied your outer space in the morning. But this time, you're clearing emotional clutter. You're sitting quietly beside yourself, without advice, without fixing, just staying. And over time, something shifts. You find yourself less carried away as the day wears on. Not because the day is less busy, but because your inner footing is stronger. The things that once rattled, you become background noise. The impulses that once drove immediate reaction now become soft reminders. You get to choose how you respond. And that choice made from silence, not stress, is the foundation of emotional freedom. In the spirit of Danshari, we don't just let go of material excess. We learn to release our habitual reactivity. Once built, inner space becomes a quiet cushion, catching you softly every time your mind begins to fray. You don't need to do anything elaborate. Just pause. Notice. Breathe. Because sometimes, what carries us through the storm isn't an umbrella. It's the open space inside us wide enough for everything to come and go without needing to hold on. Now that we've walked through this entire morning journey inspired by Japanese minimalism, from waking up with intention to creating space within, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. Which of these lessons truly spoke to you? Which one made you stop and think, this is what I've been missing? And if you had to choose just one habit to begin with, what would it be? I know that change is never easy, especially when we're used to a fast-paced, high-pressure rhythm of life. But Japanese minimalism isn't a strict method. It's an invitation to come back to yourself, to soften your pace, and to live with more clarity and intention. You don't have to apply everything. You don't need to do it perfectly. Just start small, in a way that feels natural for you. Maybe it's a moment of morning silence. Maybe it's clearing your desk before bed. Maybe it's one deep breath before replying to a message. Here's what I'd love for you to do. Share in the comments which lesson are you going to start with. What's one thing you want to try beginning tomorrow? I'll be reading every comment, and if I can, I'll walk with you through your first steps. Because minimalism isn't about having less. It's about being more present, more mindful, more joyful in the little things. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe so you won't miss the next gentle insight we share. I truly hope these lessons bring even a small shift in your space, in your energy, or in your heart, just like they did for mine. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next video.